Good afternoon, class. My name is Stefan Camarado. This presentation is on weaponized AI for cyber attacks. The source for this paper can be located below. That cult classic film, The Terminator, that was released back in the 1980s, truly changed the public's perception on AI. Like how the movie Jaws made people fear sharks, people fear the idea of a singularity, when machines become smarter than humans and change the future of all humanity. Since AI is developed mainly by private companies, there is a lack of adequate regulations from countries. However, certain countries such as Canada, China, India, United Kingdom, and the USA have taken new strides in this regard. The definition of AI is based on the tasks and roles that it can perform, such as decision-making, military ops, lethal autonomous systems, etc. AI is a technology used in both civil and military ops. The New Zealand Navy is using it for logistics purposes. The NSA is using AI in its PRISM program to utilize big data for counterterrorism. Israel is using AI with the Harpy drone in dismantling enemy ops remotely, and China has developed a drone swarm technology that can be used to bypass enemy defenses. AI weaponization in cyberspace is dangerous. Does anyone remember when Microsoft released their AI bot Tay back in 2016? It only took a day for the bot to become racist and sexist due to users feeding it malicious data. The authors define weaponized AI as a malicious AI algorithm that can degrade the performance and disrupt the normal functions of benign AI algorithms, while providing technological edge attack scenarios in both cyberspace and physical spaces. The authors focus on identifying core technical concepts used in weaponizing AI for cyber attacks and the types of attacks that are currently being carried out by such weaponized AI. AI weapons are not a new concept. They can be traced back to the mid-1950s in the form of acoustic homing torpedoes. In the late 1980s, DARPA worked on autonomous weapons, and they are now being used in military operations. Specifically, the aim was to see if plans of war using nuclear warheads could be controlled in real time with the help of AI. Researchers have argued about AI and how governments would attempt to use AI for their benefit or consider this a national security threat. The government can either confiscate AI data or fund its research to outpace private AI researching firms. However, continuous innovation in AI will lead to an arms race among different countries, which will result in more conflicts and violence, particularly with AI-powered weapons. International stability will be at risk if AI-powered technologies fell into the hands of a rogue government. Instead of loosely checking a disastrous AI arms race, it must be managed appropriately and kept in check irrespective of any affiliations or interests that might deter the objective. In this research, the authors investigate recent cyber attacks that utilize AI-based techniques and identify various mitigation strategies that are helpful in handling such attacks. They identify existing methods and techniques that are used in executing AI-based cyber attacks and what probable future scenarios would be plausible to control such attacks by identifying existing trends in AI-based cyber attacks. As AI-based cyber attacks are relatively new, the authors decided at an early stage not to follow the traditional survey methodology. For the survey, they have used the latest articles in the field from 2016 and onward containing the keywords AI and cyber attacks in their indexing terms. They identify the core technical concepts of the machine and deep learning network architectures that underlie the weaponizing of AI. Then, they divided the articles into 3 categories based on the data format, which is audio, visual, and textual, and presented the scenarios according to this division. Generative Adversarial Network, or GAN, is a specific type of neural network model where 2 networks are trained simultaneously, one focusing on image generation and another on discrimination. When it comes to AI-based cyber attacks, GANs play a pivotal role. Their main function lies in data generation, with applications including video inpainting, audio synthesis, super resolution, drug discovery, text mining, and synthesis of training data for training other deep networks. The generator network learns the distribution of the data and generates samples for the discriminator network. The discriminator is fed with 2 types of samples, one from the original data and the other generated by the generator network. The discriminator's network's job is to classify if the generator sample originates from the original data or the generator network. For audio, recent research demonstrated the capability of jamming the functionality of audio-activated devices. These devices include Apple Siri and Google Assistant, which use a wake-up word to activate them. Researchers use GANs to generate unusual noise, which can be used to disable the appropriate functionalities of devices. In another type of cyber attack, attackers use a technique called vishing, in which they use telephone communication as an attack vector and call the vulnerable victim while posing as someone else. For visual, researchers discuss how lung cancer data from CT scans can be manipulated and how to mitigate it. They use GANs in which there are 2 neural networks, where one is a generator and the other is a discriminator. The generator creates fake images, and the discriminator differentiates the real one from the fake images. For their attack, the researchers used their own developed CT gun for tampering of medical imaging. 3 radiologists with 2, 5, and 7 years of experience, along with an AI algorithm, were used to test the sample image with tampered images in 2 ways. The first way is a blind trial of 80 images, and the second way is an open trial of 20 images, but they knew that some were fake. For the blind trial, the radiologists were accurate with their diagnosis of the images, while the AI could not classify the doctored images accurately. This is alarming because radiologists utilize AI in their diagnosis. For the open trials, radiologists could not find the difference between the real or fake cancers. For textual, researchers were able to identify a few keywords that are easily manipulated in PDF files that include open action, comment, root, and page layout. These keywords infiltrate safe PDFs with malicious software and a tampered PDF that can be used in attacks. In 2020, an AI-powered bot went unnoticed for a week on a website called Reddit. It was communicating with humans by posting comments with synthetically generated data and was able to convince people that it was a real human. This is evident that such technology can be used for generating and spreading content that may cause social unrest. The authors state that if AI went against AI, it would most probably result in a draw. They point out that unless and until we have more data, we have to keep doctors in the loop and not rely entirely on AI in the medical field. The same can apply to other fields that rely on AI as well. The fast advent of AI can potentially lead to an AI arms race, which will be detrimental to international security and stability and lead to an increase in cyber attacks. The US passed the Algorithm Accountability Act to make AI developers accountable. The EU passed legislation for a safer digital cyberspace. In addition, IEEE's AI/AS initiative is focused on developing AI-based technologies that have a productive use for humanity. The authors also discuss that a smart city infrastructure is prone to cyber attacks because local governments are neither involved nor educated in the domain of cybersecurity. Moreover, the policy and discussion related to cybersecurity is not highlighted at the government's policy and decision-making levels. This is prevalent in the increases in ransomware attacks against the government, which must be countered effectively and efficiently. One of the classical problems in any deep learning algorithm, including GANs, is overfitting, which implies that the underlying algorithm learns the distribution of the training data so well that it performs almost perfectly on the training set, but when it comes to the validation set, the results severely deteriorate. Researchers are developing sophisticated network regularizers to combat hackers exploiting this weakness. Securing the AI classification models is rather important for their expected usage. AI models are basically prone to 3 types of attacks: evasion, poisoning, and stealing. It is imperative that researchers test to develop models in controlled environments for different input and output scenarios before deploying them in the real world. There are multiple uses of AI in cyber defense. Phishing is probably one of the most common cyber attacks that the average person is familiar with or should be. Phishing is a type of social engineering where an attacker sends a fraudulent message disguised as an authentic message. Their goal is to get you to click or download malicious software. This allows them access to your data or implement ransomware on a computer or network of computers. Phishing attacks are increasing, and this is expected to continue as we dive further into the Internet of Things. Using AI algorithms for phishing detection can help to prevent this type of cyber attack. Cyber attacks are increasing rapidly as we progress further in time. However, a human-centric response is not as prompt to counter such attacks. AI could be used along the cyber kill chain to resist and counter possible cyber attacks. Thus, AI coupled with human intelligence can prove to be a game changer in the realm of cybersecurity. The authors have presented numerous AI-based attack scenarios. They investigated and presented the technical background underlying those attacks and the potential mitigation strategies to address such attacks. In order to control the advancement in AI's weaponization, a few compromises must be made among superpowers, which include checks and balances that put national and international stability and well-being first, and politics and power dynamics second. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.